The goal in your life is not to figure out how to be comfortable in your mental prisons, but to realize that you have the keys to set yourself free.
Hey everybody, welcome to How to Be Mesmerizing. It's Tim Shurr, and I'm super excited that you're here with us today because you are mesmerizing, and we have a special guest for you. I'm really excited about our program today. We have Douglas with us. Woo! Oh man, Sean is exciting. He's an amazing guy, total definition of an entrepreneur, someone who is out there making a difference, hitting the pavement every single day, dreaming big, hustling harder. Make sure you look at his t-shirt. If you're watching our video, if you're not watching this video, you can go to YouTube and check it out. Go to youtube.com/Shurr Success and watch the videos of us going back and forth. But anyway, Sean is an amazing guy. He has a very powerful story, and we met because I was actually a guest on his show. He has a huge life transformation radio program. It's all over the world. It's like in 66 different countries. It's pretty extraordinary, his show. So make sure that you check it out. It's called Life Transformation Radio. So go and subscribe and become a part of his tribe, and you'll be glad you did. So Sean is an author, and he's a serial entrepreneur, and he just makes people's lives better through all the coaching and things that he does. He's a TEDx speaker, and he's just getting his message out in a big way. So Sean, welcome to the program.
Man, I'm so pumped to be here. We had an amazing time on my show, and we're going to recreate some magic here.
Yeah, we are. So first I want to launch in. You were also, you've been in the Air Force, 17-year career, right? And serving our country. And so I want to thank you for your service and for representing. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you. 2 more years and I can call it quits.
Oh my God. So. Yeah. That's right. That's amazing. Right. So will you be like 20 years then?
20 years. Yep. 20-year veteran.
All right. 20-year veteran. So that's just amazing. So would you say that you got some of your gumption, some of your leadership stuff from being in the Air Force and serving in that way? Or do you feel like you kind of always had that and you're just kind of been carrying it through?
So I started my entrepreneurial career shoveling snow, raking leaves, cutting grass in like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. My whole family, my mom's side, my dad's side, total hard workers. All they care about is hard work ethic on both sides of the family. Yeah. And so, no matter whose house I was at, they're like, you're not working hard enough. You're not working hard. Like, you have to work hard. And they believe that hard work is what sets everybody apart. You can be a good person. You can, do a bunch of great things. But if you're not working hard, I remember the one saying, it was like grinding to the bone, or like work your fingers to the bone, or whatever. Like, that was my grandparents. Like, that's what they believed in, like, work your fingers to the bone, which means that you work so hard, you got calluses. My dad's side of the family, they're from the country. So, my grandparents have the big farm and so I remember as a kid doing all that stuff. In the military, it's the same way. You work, and then you can play. It's like you work hard and you play harder, And so I took both worlds, and it's just how it's how I grew up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember asking a guy, anytime when I was younger and I would meet somebody who was very successful, at least on the outside, right? I met a lot of millionaires that were pretty unhappy people. And but I would ask him, I said, what's your secret to success? I only talked to the guy a couple of times because he just wasn't a very nice guy. But he was a millionaire, right? And I asked him, what makes you successful? And he says, well, you work 1 hour, you make $1. He says, you work 2 hours, you make $2. You just doubled your money. And I'm like, well, that's not much of a secret, right? That just means you got to work your whole life. And I think that part of entrepreneurship is trying to figure out how not to have to work.
Yeah, I'd argue that point, but I'd also say in retrospect that the whole entrepreneurship, is not about sitting on the beach sipping Mai Tais.
Oh no.
Right? It's you're putting in the work now. How's that saying go? I'm doing today what others won't, so that I can do tomorrow what others can't.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. It's,
Yes.
I'm going to hustle as much as I can today, 12, 14, 16 hours. I'll do that for a week, and I'll be much further than someone who put in 4 hours a day. I put in 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
So if you want to fast track your success, fast track your entrepreneurship, fast track your business, just put in more work, outwork people. Do whatever it is that nobody else will do, just outwork them.
Yeah. You know, that there's a lot of people out there, Gary Vee and a lot of people out there that are talking about that and pushing that. And so maybe that'll be the thing that we talk about today, because there's a real challenge in that, right? There's a belief and people are priding themselves on not ever sleeping because they're just putting in, 1,000 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure how old you are. I'm 49 years old. And so, I'll hustle. I'll stay up till 1 a.m. I've done those all-nighters, but it really has an effect on me. And so I keep learning how to work smarter, not harder, because I know a lot of guys. I mean, I work really hard. My brain is exhausted at the end of the day. We were both laughing before we went live because if you look at our computer, we'll have like 30 tabs open, right?
36.
We'll have, 36. Yeah, actually, Sean counted 36 tabs, right? And that's probably on one window browser. And then he has 6 more of them like that. And then his phone is like that too, because
my phone has 71.
Yeah, it's nuts, right? Because we're always going. That's how we're going. But we're running into an epidemic now. So for some people who need a hard work ethic, mm-hmm. that's important. They need to step up, show up, and shine. You got to hustle, and you got to have commitment, and you got to have consistency, and you got to work hard every single day, or you're not going to be able to achieve at the levels that you could. But what do you think about the people that are burning out, that are just going hard and not taking the break, or not playing hard, as you said, or playing harder? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I address burnout this way. You're either doing something so hard that you hate, and that's why you get burned out. Like, I don't get burned out. I can work 16 to 18 hours a day, get 5 hours of sleep, and do it all again because I've done it. Mm-hmm. But I love it.
Yeah.
So when I think of burnout are people who hate what they do. Now there's a difference between overexerting yourself and, dude, I'm like, yesterday, like, I was exhausted, and I even told the wife, I was like, geez, I'm exhausted. And then I was on my radio show, and before that I was like, I'm gonna try to like push through this thing, but man, I am so tired. Like, I'm exhausted. And even then, like, after the show, we hung up, and then I went and like laid down on the couch for something. Like, let me get like 10 minutes. I did my 10-15 minute little power nap, and then I was right back at it, did some dinner, did some other things around the house, cleaned out the garage. Like, you can do what you love and not get burned out at it. Yeah. But you can also overexert yourself. So the whole hustle porn, I'm wearing a shirt that says dream big, hustle harder. What that means is if you have 8 hours of work, are you 8 hours of scrolling through Facebook and watching cat videos on YouTube, but you say you're working? Or are you calling 100 people in those 8 hours? Are you making money I call it DPAs, dollar producing activities? Yeah. Are you performing DPAs, or are you messing around, chatting on Snapchat, or doing something else that has nothing to do with what you're supposed to be doing? There's a huge difference between working 8 hours and being efficient in 8 hours and being productive in 8 hours and actually performing in those 8 hours. So I know that my body needs between 6 and 7 hours. I don't like getting 6 hours, but I can function on 6 or 7 hours. Anything less than that, I'm dead tired. But anything more than 9 hours, like, I think I got like 8.5 or 9 hours today, and I was like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, my sweet spot is like 7 to 7.5 hours. If I can get that 7 or 7.5 hours, my body is like, let's do this. So I'm either tired before or tired after. It's really weird. If you know your body, you know how much sleep you need to get, then you need to plan your schedule according to your sleep schedule, because the whole hustle hard and not sleeping, that's not what that's about. It's what are you doing while you're awake? That's what matters. That's the hustle.
That is really well said. You really cleared it up. So, understanding how your body works, what works best for you. And then, because I work with a lot of millennials who are, or younger kids who are, just think that the goal is to stay awake all night long and just guzzle Red Bulls. And, and that's how you're going to be overnight success. And it is not the case, because they are fried. Right. And so I met a guy that came to me, and he was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and he was drinking 6 Red Bulls a day. And he just looked at me. I mean, he was just like, a hamster on crack. I mean, it was bad. And so we had to get him off of that stuff and recharge his batteries. And so all the things that you said, making those distinctions, I think you're right. You can get overexerted. If you're doing what you love, then, you just get more charged up by it. And so I agree. Yeah.
Can we just agree that there is no such thing as an overnight success? Like, let's just agree. Like, I have never in my life, in 35 years, ever heard of anybody becoming an overnight success.
Yeah.
Unless, now there is this one video floating around called Damn Daniel. Have you seen this thing? They were just on Ellen. So the one kid is showing off his Vans, and the one kid filming is like, "Damn, Daniel." And so that's the whole video is like 45 seconds. It goes viral, which took like a couple days or a week or something like that. And now Vans just gave that 16-year-old kid and his friend a sponsorship to Vans. Like they're sponsoring that kid to like show off his Vans and like make these Damn Daniel videos. Like that, like they're using that kid as a marketing tool. I'm like, that's awesome. That's smart. But it was like a couple days, and like the video was weeks ago. And then Ellen was like, holy crap, this is awesome. And then they just got them on the Ellen show. But it wasn't like he made the video on Tuesday and on Wednesday he was on Ellen.
Right.
Like still, even if it's a week, it's still not considered an overnight success. Not Uber, not Amazon, not nobody. Uber was operating 2 to 3 years in San Francisco before anybody even heard of Uber.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook was popular back in like 2006, 2005, 2006, right? And then now, we look like 13 years later, like look at where it's become, right? And there's still people that don't even have a Facebook profile.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is no overnight success.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so that applies to all of us, because I think that we put too much pressure on ourselves that we're supposed to somehow be amazing immediately.
Right.
And
set
then
yourself a deadline. Just set yourself a deadline, like in 2 years or in 1 year or in, give it time, like in like 6 months, in like, and just give yourself time, and then take the strategic steps to work towards that goal.
Yeah.
That's what I always coach people on. Like, you need to set yourself a realistic deadline, like like your realism, not anybody else's realism. Like what can you physically, realistically accomplish in a year?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then do it.
So I heard someone say, I think it was Tony Robbins. He said, we dramatically overestimate how much we can accomplish in a year, and we dramatically underestimate how much we could accomplish in 3 years. And I thought that was so accurate, because there was a long period of time where I would set this goal, like a year goal. And then I wouldn't hit it, and then I'd be like frustrated, and I stopped setting goals like that. Right. And because I got frustrated, and then I realized I need to just what you said, I need to readjust my timeline. Say what's possible within 3 years, and then double whatever I'm dreaming. Whatever I think is possible, double it. Yep. And when I started doing that, I created a lot more momentum and excitement, because it wasn't just about hitting a goal, because we accomplish millions of goals. It's the value you can bring and what you're learning, and really who you're growing into, through the journey. So yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've heard it said that you get less done in a year than you think, but you get more done within 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're going, and if you keep moving with consistency towards a common goal, right? Where there's a specific thing that you keep moving towards. So many times people get distracted because they have too many things going. It's a big curse of entrepreneurs. We're so creative. We want to do everything. We can do a lot of stuff, and it holds us back because then we have too many things going, and you just can't get all of these things going at the same time. So, you can't plant 10 fields at once. So plant the field in front of you, get it growing, and then, if you need, have someone to take over growing that field so you can grow the next one.
Didn't you tell me that you had like a bunch of 1 foot holes or something? I got dude, that has to be a shirt. Like, I'm not even like that. Everybody listening right now, this man is brilliant. There's only a couple times in my life where somebody has said anything and my head damn near exploded. And so you literally teed it up to where I could understand it. And that's one of the things that people had said. They're like, bro, I do that. I see her. I'm like, I'm going to make a t-shirt line and I'm going to make this and I'm going to do this podcast and I'm going to make this thing and I'm going to make this. And then they quit like months into it. Like, you got to give it time. And so all you've done is dig these 1 foot holes. And when you said that, I was like, oh my, like, yes. And I know so many people that do that too. I know oh my God, so many people that, oh my gosh, that blew my mind. And so everybody listening right now, this man is brilliant. Like, I'm not even joking. When you said 1 foot holes, I'm like, you just explained like over half of the people who have quit and the other half who are entrepreneurs who can't figure out that one thing that they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. And I learned that from making the same mistake, right? From having too many irons in the fire. You know, I dig a 1 foot hole here and then another one there and another one there, but never having the consistency, the commitment. I mean, I had the commitment, I just maybe didn't have the direction. And so you try it for a little bit and you're like, well, this isn't working. Maybe I need to adjust my approach or hire a different coach or try something else. But I never gave it long enough for it to create any kind of momentum. And then I didn't have, well, how long is long enough, right? And I didn't know, and I didn't have anybody to help or tell me. And so once I started learning that, long enough might be a couple of years. You know, it might take you 3 or 4 years to create the kind of empire that you want to create. You know, it might take you 5 or 10 years. Mm-hmm. I was thinking that it needed to be done in 6 months, right? Mm-hmm. And so many people think that, and they have these false expectations, and it sabotages them. And now with the internet and Facebook and all this, where people are literally just showing, they'll take 30 different pictures and then they'll show you one of them that's the best one. And they're like, oh, I just took this. You lied. You did not. You took it 30 different times until you find the one that you like. And so people aren't being vulnerable. So one of the things that I do now is when I'm shooting videos or anything I'm doing, I don't edit them at all. Right? If I screw up, if I mess up, if there's something, I went outside to shoot a video the other day and it was so humid, sweat was just pouring in my eyes. And I shot the whole video like this. So anyway, press on. And it was all about commitment, and how you're going to press on. And it was
That's
brilliant.
awesome.
I had a bug fly in my ear. I mean, it was out of control. and I left it because that's the reality of it. Right?
Heck yeah. Have you ever read the book 3 Feet from Gold with Greg Reed and Sharon Lechter?
No, but it's a great title.
Oh my gosh, man. Everybody listening, you must go get Tim's book. And then while you're shopping on Amazon, you must go and get this book 3 Feet from Gold by Greg Reed and Sharon Lechter, who I know personally and are amazing, amazing people.
Yeah.
The whole premise is that you're always 3 feet from gold. Always. And so you want to talk about these 1 foot holes. This whole story is a guy goes and buys a gold mine, right, to mine the gold in the height of the gold rush. And he's digging. He cannot, he's going up, he's going down, he's going these way, like sideways, and he just cannot find gold. And so he quits. What happens is he sells the gold mine for half of what he bought it for. The guy who buys it goes 3 feet in one direction. And because he went 3 feet in one direction, he struck the largest gold deposit ever discovered in San Francisco, in the gold rush. So the whole point of it was that you can't, and when you said 1 foot holes, I was like, oh my God. And I think that's why it resonated, because I'm like, cool, got it, 3 feet, right? Go far, deep, not so much wide, go deep, got it. But when you explained it 1 foot holes, I was like, holy crap. And it just all brought it back together. And so the whole premise of that is you must go in one direction as deep as you can. And if you get to a dead end, you get to a dead end. But normally when you go so far deep down one hole, you're going to strike gold.
Yeah. And if you go deep enough, you might not hit gold, you'll hit oil. Right?
Possibly.
Because it creates doors that haven't even been created yet. And it flings them open. Yeah. Right. And so that's what happens when you're creating opportunity. You're not waiting around for it. And you cannot give up. Now, sometimes people say, well, if you're digging and digging, how do you know when to stop? Well, you don't stop. You just keep digging, and then maybe you adjust, maybe you go another way, you know, but you keep figuring out what you need to do if it's a passion, right? So one of the tricks is, how do you get yourself to enjoy digging, right? How do you get yourself to enjoy the journey?
The grind.
Yeah.
Yep. The hustle and the grind.
The hustle and the grind. How do you love the hustle and the grind? How do you love the pain and the frustration and turn it into something that becomes, you know, passion? I was working with some kids today that were really great. I do a lot with sports performance, right? And so I get these kids that come in that are really talented, and maybe they're in a slump or they're looking to get that edge. And so, so I was working with one of them today, and we were talking about how the body doesn't want to do it, or the body can do it, but the mind doesn't want to. It always holds back. And what can you do to change it? And I said, you got to start to love the pain. You know, you got to start to love the you know, when it starts to feel hard, that's what you're looking for, because your biggest breakthroughs are in the places you don't want to go. So if you push just a little extra when you're in those moments, it shows up big time down the road. And so instead of trying to avoid pain, we run head on towards it, right? And when you do that, you find that it wasn't as bad as you thought. And you start to create these pretty amazing breakthroughs that would have never happened otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. I watch Eric Thomas. I love, we're both from Detroit. He's an amazing speaker. I get so pumped up. And I really only follow like 3 to 4 people, because I don't want to get, like, there's so much information on the internet. Like, I just want to follow my 3 or 4 people, and like, right? Yeah. So one of them is Eric Thomas. And Eric Thomas is a black dude from Detroit, you know, grew up, you know, kind of poor, but he's just a beast, man. He's absolutely amazing. And he was a high school dropout. Now he's a PhD. And he's all about grinding and hustling and, you know, all that stuff. And he tells a story of a kid who's an athlete. And he's just not where he wants to be. And he's sick of the pain. He's sick of grinding. He's sick of hustling. He wants it to happen. He wants to be in the NFL, whatever. So he meets this old player turned coach turned mentor, whatever. Says, meet me at the beach. And so, you know, he's like, meet me here or whatever. So he comes in a suit, and the dude's like, we're at the beach. Like, what are you doing in a suit? You got to come prepared, you know, for the pain, for the grind, for the hustle. And like, I'm sick of that. So they go out into the water, and this mentor like shoves his face under the water and holds it there. And he's like drowning him. And so after he gets up and he's struggling, he's like, what are you doing? He's like, until you want it as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And it's the whole point where he's stuck underwater and he's fighting through pain. And finally he got let up, and all of a sudden he could breathe and the pain went away. He's like, until that moment happens, you will not be successful. And so he taught him how to be one with the pain and how to be one with the grind, because it's a necessary practice, and the journey is what strengthens you to handle that success. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of times we talk about you loving the pain and got to have the grind and all that stuff. And then the other side of it is, again, what we keep talking about too, is focus on the joy of it, right? Yeah. So when you can breathe, you know, or when you do get the aha moment, or when you do have those successes, you know, when you have pushed yourself harder than you thought you could go, there's such a joy, there's such a high. And so we want to embrace the pain. We also want to make sure that you're finding the pleasure in it. Yep. I was talking to somebody the other day, and she said that I was helping her with something, and she had massive breakthroughs, and she had been with a therapist for years. And the therapist kept talking about how you got to feel the pain, go through the pain, release the pain. Right. And my client, you know, when I started working with her, I started helping her associate pleasure to the new things, give her a new way of looking at things, because she had been in pain forever, right? She needed some pleasure. She needed some joy. And so showing her how, you know, how to use, giving her new affirmations, a new way of talking to herself, a new way of taking care of herself, and letting her feel like she deserved it. She said, my brain finally had something I could grab onto, right? She says, I dealt with the pain. I'm used to the pain. I know the pain. She said, but I never had anything else to grab onto. And so we got to make sure that we also focus on having the pleasure, because there's 2 ways to motivate: away from pain and towards pleasure, right? And so we all know the pain. But what people aren't as good at is knowing how to associate the pleasure to what you're doing. And that's how we started our conversation, you know, talking about how you got to love it. You know, you're the one that said you don't get burned out when you love what you do. Right. And that's brilliant, because that's exactly right.
Yeah. Yep.
So tell me, we talk about when people hear you, they're like, oh my gosh, Sean, you're so motivating. You know all these people, you've done all this cool stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Just listening to you, you've got this energy and this vibe, and it's like, yeah, right? It comes out of you, right? So, but as I was kind of looking through your stuff and your research and things like that, it's also talking about where you focus a lot on suicide prevention.
Yes.
Right. And anytime somebody's interested in something like that, it's because they have a personal story or issue with it. So I dig a little bit deeper, and then it's in one of your bios where you had struggled with that or maybe attempted it. So
yep.
I want people to know that that you didn't, even though you've worked hard, you've been trained to work hard, it doesn't sound like you've always been such a powerful motivational guy.
Nope.
So how in the world did you get to where you are? Maybe what shifted inside of you to go from someone who is thinking about ending it all to being someone who is so motivational? How'd that happen?
I love this moment, and I love this question, which is the basis of my show, Life Transformation, right? And I literally go through, you were on the show, it was like, what was that moment? Like, what was that transformation moment that did a 180 in your life and put you on the path? In 2008, I put a gun in my mouth and tried to end my life. I had already built one business. I was battling alcohol abuse. I was battling losing my marriage, kids, my military career. Like, everything was falling apart around me. And it crumbled so fast and so hard. I didn't know how to become resilient through those moments. And the only way that I knew how to deal with it was drink, get into more trouble, or just end it, like just end the suffering. And most people, when they try to end their life or they do, is because they just don't see any other way. There isn't like, oh, I could just talk to a therapist and I'll be better now. Like, there's something going on mentally, physically, emotionally that needs to change. And for me, what changed was I found a different purpose. So when you step fully into your purpose, there is no door that can be closed. There is no obstacle that you can't overcome. There is no mountain that you can't climb. When you step fully into your purpose. So if you think that Bitcoin is your purpose, but yet everything's failing, then it's probably not your purpose. I'm talking like you are so deep in your purpose that nothing touches you. It's because the universe said this is what you were meant to do. And I ask people like, oh, I'm struggling. I'm like, do you feel like this is what you're meant to do? What I was meant to do was be a speaker. What I was meant to do was to motivate people. And in order to do that, I had to love myself more than others love me. And I never did that. I never said, I love myself. I value myself. What I valued was what other people thought about me. I lived my life according to what other people thought I should live. I lived my life according to other people's reality of what they thought about me. And so if they thought I sucked, then I must suck. If they thought I was stupid, then I must be stupid. If they thought I wasn't good enough, then I'm not good enough. I put weight in other people's opinion instead of how I felt about myself. And when I did that, I lowered my value to the point where I didn't want to live anymore. I was trying so hard to please other people that I just couldn't do it anymore. And so it almost cost me everything. And so I stopped drinking. I tried to quit smoking. I stopped smoking for a while. Then I went back to it. And like, I struggled for all that. But in December of 2008, I put a gun in my mouth. People who I thought didn't like me, they made fun of me, whatever, came to my aid and like pulled me out of the hole. And what pulls people out of the hole is empathy, not sympathy. Like, oh, that must be tough. Sorry for your loss. Like, that is sympathy. When somebody passes away and I go to a funeral, here's what I say to them. This is the difference between sympathy and empathy. Empathy says, I can't imagine what you're going through, but I know what it felt like when I lost my grandfather, my mother, my whoever, and I'm here for you if you need anything. Not sorry for your loss. I hate when people say that. I'm sorry for your loss. Like, no, you're not. Like, that's just the thing that we say, right?
Mhm.
Empathy is what gets people out of the hole. I don't know what you're going through, but I want to experience it with you. Or, hey, I've been there, Tim. I've been where you are, and it's not fun. But I'm on the other side of that now, and now I can help you get out of that hole. And so when I'm coaching people or I'm marketing to people, I use empathy. Like, I've been there. Your credit card swiped and it said decline transaction and you have $0 in your bank account. Trust me, I've been there.
Oh, I've been there too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not a great feeling. And
Right.
until you've been in these spots, you can't even imagine what they're feeling. You can't, if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, right? And you were born into money, you don't know what it's like to grow up poor. You don't know what it's like unless you were abused as a child, right? You don't know what it's like to coach somebody through that abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what changed for me was people showed that I was worth it, that I am enough, and that my opinion of myself matters more than what other people think about me. And I need to love myself more than others love me. And I got into it with my uncle not even a couple months ago. And he's like, no, you are so wrong. And he's like yelling at me. I was like, how can I love somebody if I don't love myself? Where does that love come from? Well, you just got to do it. He's like, no, you have to love yourself first before you can love someone else. Because if you're not in a good place, you're not going to be in a good place to help anybody else. And I was not in a good place. And so I became a drill instructor for Air Force basic training. I became a speaker. I became an author, the podcast, and everything just rolled. If I look back 10 years, I had to go through the hard stuff in order to have a story to tell. And so my message for everybody is let your mess be your message and let the test be your testimony.
Brother Sean. Oh my gosh. I got chills. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Let me tell you why. So I've interviewed a lot of people, a lot of very successful, mesmerizing people. And I talk all the time about self-love. And I used to like pre-qualify it and say, I know it sounds mushy. I know it sounds silly. And I'm like, screw that. Why do I keep doing that? That is core, essential stuff. We need to be loving ourselves and not be embarrassed about it, right? And you're the first person that's come on here that talked all about self-love. And I'm just so happy. I'm giving you a big virtual hug right now because I'm just so happy that someone else who's really successful has been able to just validate that it's really about loving ourselves. And if you're not loving yourself, then how are you supposed to give what you don't have? If I got zero cash in my wallet, how am I supposed to give you any money? Right. Yep. And so in the same thing with our love account. And I just love how you did that and how you phrase that I've got to love myself more than others are loving me or not loving me. Right. And, oh my gosh, that's so good. Yeah, so good.
That's what it is, man. Like you literally can't give something to someone else that you don't have. And that was like, I literally cannot, there's no way that I would do anything to jeopardize my family when before I was like, I don't care, like whatever, like, because I didn't love myself. I chased the wrong things. I chased everybody else's opinion. Right. So even now I piss my wife off because I'm like, I don't care what you think about me. Like I care about me more than I care about what you think about me. I don't care what my mom thinks. I don't care what my brother, my sisters, like, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I care what I think about me. And as long as I'm doing the right things with integrity and honesty and, you know what I mean? Like I'm good. Yeah. When I'm okay with me, then I will say, hey, honey, what about this? Or what do you think about this? And I bounce ideas off and I'm like, well, I'm going to do it anyways. And she's, well, what did you ask me for? I'm like, I just wanted to kind of bounce it off to see what you thought, And so I'm just kind of gauging, and I just make the decision based on that. But when, like, if I lose and I lose big, I don't care what anybody else thinks about that loss, that big thing, that mistake that I made, because I'm already beating myself up over it more than anybody else ever would,
Well, you took the shot, right?
Yes.
If you want to take the shot and you miss, then so what? At least you took the shot, because too many people don't even take the shot because they're afraid that they're going to miss. They're trying to avoid the disappointment. Well, then you're not really living. If you're afraid of dying, you're not focused on living. Right?
Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. It's my all-time favorite hockey player. Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Yes.
For those of you that can't see, I pulled that plaque right off my wall. I carry it with me. So Sean and I must be brothers from another mother.
Oh my gosh, man.
This is what I carry around all the time.
Yes. Yes. That's so awesome.
Right?
Oh,
That's
man,
exactly
we're
right.
destined. We're destined.
So
Oh
I love everything you're saying. And I hope that everybody that's listening is really soaking this in, because we try so hard. I mean, there was plenty of times where I was confused about what we're talking about, trying to figure this stuff out. And especially like in relationships. So, if my wife was mad at me, then my self-esteem was in the toilet, right? Or if she didn't understand what I was trying to accomplish as an entrepreneur. And sometimes, I have so many things going on. If she wants me to explain it, it's like, oh, it would take me 20 years to explain what I have going on right now. And so it would just come out and it would sound dumb. Like, well, I'm doing this one thing and then this other, and it's but it's all going to work out. And she's like, oh my God, we're going to die. We're going to go broke. And, and we're going to live in a van by the river. And I would get so bummed out by that. But now I realize that I have an inner security and inner peace inside. And it allows me to be able to take greater risks because I know that I can make it happen, right? God and we can pull this off together. In the same token, though, I also, from loving myself, realize that it's also important when you really start to take care of yourself, you realize the value of taking care of others. Because, I could get very driven and then become very selfish. Mm-hmm. And make my work a bigger priority than my wife, right?
Right.
So, or my kids, but more my wife, because sometimes when you're with, someone for a long time, we've been together 20 years, you start to lose some of your manners, right? And sometimes the closer you are, the worse it is. And so I've had to work really hard to also make sure that part of loving myself is being open, being emotionally vulnerable, and sharing with her, not where I'm trying to prove myself or have her attention, or not attention, approval, right? I don't need her approval. I'm independent of my wife's approval, which is a big deal for me.
Huge.
Okay? But I want to be that hero for her, right? I want her to feel safe. And so I think that it's because we battle sometimes with, well, how am I supposed to be so driven that I love myself and I don't care what anybody thinks of me? But then at the same time, how do I make sure that I don't become selfish and just make it all about me? So
I love that.
Thoughts on that?
Nailed it. Nothing like you 100% nailed it, man. I have nothing else to say about that because it's so true. And it's not that I want or I need or whatever, like my wife's approval. And it's not that I do or do not value her opinion. It has to come from me first.
Yeah.
Right. Because if I live according to how others think about me, then I'm not living my true authentic self. And then you start to have lower self-esteem. And that's how it starts. That's how it begins. Mm-hmm. And don't be a people pleaser.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, is it really working? And if you're pleasing them, are you being pleased in the process? Right.
Right.
So, it's okay if you want a little bit of approval. I like, if I'm on stage and people clap afterwards.
Yeah, 100%.
I like
standing ovations. That. Like, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. But if I get one clap, I'm like, oh, shoot, I must have sucked. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna be like, that's it. I'm done. I can't speak no more. One person clapped. I can't do this. It's, hopefully you videotaped it and hopefully you, or recorded, we don't videotape, we record, right. But you grow, and every moment to moment, it's all about growing.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to grow.
Let me point out what you just did too, because I don't know if everybody would catch that. Okay. But what you did was, even if I go out and I get one clap, I mean, hopefully you recorded it. What your brain just did in that moment was, how can I make the best of this situation? What can I take from it and make it still work for me? Right? Even if it didn't go that great. I was talking to a guy that very well-known corporate speaker, and he said that one of the secrets is, you just got to make sure that you're showing your best stuff and people are putting you out there. Right. And they make you look like a genius.
Yeah.
So, he says, sometimes my worst stuff, they grab just a little bit of it and it would make it look like I'm a superstar. Mm-hmm. And so, we've got to make sure that our mind is always saying, no matter what's going on, how can we be encouraging of ourselves? How can we be supportive of ourselves? If nobody else is going to be there for you, you be there for you. And then you can never be abandoned. You can never be rejected if you're not rejecting yourself, right? As long as you're there for you and you got your own back, then you'll be amazed what you can accomplish when you are now independent of the opinion of others.
Oh, 100%. Nailed it.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, so tell me so you wrote a book.
Yep.
And tell us about your book.
So the book is called Decisions, The Power to Overcome Self-Defeating Behaviors. And it was my first book I ever wrote. It's an autobiographical approach to using me as a case study to build resilience, to build your, basically build your journey through overcoming those self-defeating behaviors. You could actually watch how the self-defeating behaviors started. Because I go back, I'm like, what was that moment? And I had to do a bunch of research. And I was like, what was that moment that this self-defeating behavior, that sabotage, right, started? Like, when did I start acting that way? And so I cite a bunch of research studies, and a bunch of theories and laws. And, so if I say the law of attraction says this, in the moment that I knew that the law of attraction was a thing, was back in this time at this date when this happened, whatever, the broaden and build theory, or this, theory or whatever. And so, I dealt with childhood abuse and trauma and moving and getting evicted and drugs and alcohol and all this stuff, and I wrote the book, and it was like, this is a case study for somebody who has a lot of self-defeating behaviors that wants to get out. And the feedback that I got from that book was like, holy crap, dude, I felt like you wrote this story about me. I was like, yes. And what's amazing about it is I wrote the story as if Tim and I are sitting in a bar and I'm telling him my story. Or I'm on a podcast episode and I'm telling him my story. That's how the book is written. So it's like you're a fly on the wall having a conversation with this, watching the conversation unfold and watching the story unfold. And my whole vision of that book was that maybe it'll be a movie one day. That's why I wrote it that way, so that the characters were portrayed. It's so vivid, right? Like, I even talked about the fire and the crackling and the pops that you hear and the embers fly. Like, I described everything so eloquently, so that if this ever became a movie, they could be like, yep, I know how it's supposed to look, because I want to think bigger. You know what I mean? And maybe my life will be a movie one day, and when I'm like 90 years old or something, I don't know.
That's incredible. Yeah. Or next year. So yeah, that's
jeez. That's scary, but that'd be awesome.
Yeah, right. Wow, that's really amazing. So everybody's got to make sure you go to Amazon and get the book Decisions, Sean Douglas, because this is, that sounds like an amazing story. And your story in itself is pretty amazing. So, I'm curious, what do they teach you about building people up when you're a drill sergeant?
Oh man, there's a science. That's a science, man. Really, like, it starts from the moment they get off the bus. You have to tear them down. There's a reason why we call them scumbags and we're mean to them. And, we must tear them down to eradicate any self-defeating behaviors that they have. And then we spend the next, it's like a 2-week process. And then the remaining weeks of training, the remaining 6 weeks, is all about building them back up to be self-sustaining, to show themselves that they can do this, and to build them up in the military image. We must strip them away of any identity prior to, I had a 35-year-old guy in my flight one time, and he totally got it. He's like, I know what we're doing. The 18, I have a 17-year-old one time, and they cared more about other people, and they had friends. And the science behind it is that you must strip away anything prior to that life is now dead and gone. And we build you up into the military image to accept our core values of integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. That is the foundation of everything that we do in the military. We then lay the foundation. We then build the walls, the house, whatever you want to call it, and we build you up into self-sustaining, proactive, and efficient adults trained to kill. That's it.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's intense. So,
yeah.
And built on core values.
Built on core values.
Yeah. You know, you got 3 core values that you use. And so that's amazing. You know, people say, oh, core values, we don't have time for that. It's not really important. It's just something, a piece of
everything.
Put on the wall.
It's everything. Because if your business doesn't have core values, then how do you know how to operate? Yeah. You know, the core values are the laws that you operate on. Like if you don't have any core values, then why are you honest? Or why do you have a family? Or why do you believe what you believe? Even religion is based on core values, core principles that you must believe in. Everything is done this way. And so, yeah, I'm with you, man. I laugh like, core value. I'm like, whatever, dude, you're going to fail. Because think of it this way. Values are where you want to be in life. And goals are those accomplishments along the way. You can't set goals without setting values.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's your compass.
It is.
All the things that you've been through, all the experiences that you've had, if you had to start all over from scratch, right? If something happens and all of a sudden you have to start over from scratch in your business, with your life, what would you do?
The number one thing is I would find my why. If everything around me burned down today and me and my wife and kids were standing on the street, like our car is gone, like we lost everything, like we have nothing but like a bag of clothes, right? The first thing I'm doing is I'm finding the meaning inside of this moment. Like we are homeless, we have $0. Number one thing I'm doing is finding my why. Why did this happen? Right? Because everything that you go through is a learning experience and everything is happening for you. So if that's true, the number one thing I'm doing is I'm finding my purpose. I'm finding my meaning. And I'm going to use this moment of the dark night of the soul, as they call it, to find my pathway. And it will illuminate my path. And now I got a badass story to tell. Like I have an amazing story that my wife and I were homeless. You know, like I have a cool story now. But what's my purpose and my why? The very next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to my immediate network and try to find out how I can get money, get paid, where am I going to live, you know, the essential things. But it all has to focus on my purpose and my passion, right? Yeah. Everything I do from here on out, from that moment, has to hinge on my purpose and passion. Because when you step fully into your purpose, there are no doors that can be closed, and the universe will somehow make it happen no matter what. I don't know how it works. Call it God. That's what I believe. Call it the universe. Call it spiritual, whatever you want to call it. But when you are fully engaged in that purpose, right, there's nothing that can stop you. And so I'm looking for that purpose in that moment that nothing will stop me.
That is so good. You know, I heard a phrase a long time ago that if you have a big enough why, the how will appear.
Yes.
So many people are looking for how, but they haven't found their why.
Yep.
And you got to have a why big enough that it makes you cry, right? That it just.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, and that's where it all comes together. And then if you're constantly, focus driven, right, purpose driven, then you make everything work to your advantage. And then you did it again. You know, I like to find the unconscious processes that make people successful. And as I'm listening to you, you have this process that no matter what shows up, you use it to your advantage. Even if you and your kids and your family were sitting there homeless with a bag, you're in your head going, this is going to be an awesome book one day.
It is. It is. Like, it's going to be an awesome book. It's going to be a movie. I'm going to have a cool story to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so, because you're always looking for, how can I make this happen? Right. How can I use this to my advantage?
Yep.
And, in life, there's winners and learners. And as long as you're doing one or the other, then you're going to be just fine. So Wow, Sean, this has been outstanding, even better than I thought it was going to be. So, Brother Sean has been preaching live. Yeah, you are the example, the poster child of what it means to be mesmerizing, and I really appreciate you being here. So, everybody, make sure you go to Amazon, get Sean's book, Decisions, and I'm going to have the links on our website in the podcast notes. Thank you so much for making time, because I know you are in demand. You got so much going on. I really appreciate you making time to be on the program and for dropping all of those golden nuggets. It was really good. So thank you.
You make it easy, man. You're an amazing host. You're an amazing podcast guest. And, I hope that we can continue, this relationship, because the fact that you can pull that sign off the wall and we're so in tune with, man, that's just, I'm telling you, when you are fully in it, right? Things like this happen, the self-love, you missed 100% of the shot. I mean, just the things that we've talked about, man, it's just, there's a connectedness there. Yeah. And like I said, man, when you step fully into whatever it is that you're doing, moments like this happen. And I'm going to remember this moment, man, because that was amazing.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly right. When, you don't worry about if doors are going to open for you. You create the opportunities where the doors come out of nowhere, right? Doors that didn't even exist. We create the doors and then we march right on through. So
right.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. So, all right, everybody that's been listening, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for listening. Like I always say, if you weren't with us, then Sean and I would have had an amazing conversation, but it would not have been the same without you. So make sure that you hang out with us all the time, and go check out Sean's stuff, and just continue to use what you've learned here. Take those nuggets that Sean has been dropping through this program, and be loving to yourself, and find your why, and be values driven, and make sure that you continue to take care of yourself more than anything else, so that you can be there for everybody else. And it'll make your life mesmerizing, and you'll find yourself a sure success. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey, would you like more free tips on how to be a mesmerizing leader? Then check out mesmerizingleadership.com, and also hang out with me on Facebook, facebook.com/Tim Shurr. Thanks so much, and make your